Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. My name is JJ Hardy, and I own Victory Leadership Coaching. And today we have another guest. This is just wonderful that I've had so many lately. Her name is Kimberly, and she is going to tell us about herself and her business, and then we'll see where the conversation takes us. Kimberly, you want to give an introduction to the audience?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, JJ.
Of course.
I'm an operations director, but because I blend intuition with logical operations, I go by the Virtual Life Alchemist. I've been in the online space for 15 years now, and before that, 17 in the corporate and small business world before a disability took me out of mainstream work. I was blessed to be able to find online and move into what I do, which is helping business owners and entrepreneurs automate and streamline their business so they can reclaim their time and passion, to put it simply and easily.
Well, that's excellent. So you said that you don't have to give any background information on the disability. So a disability led you into the online space. So how did you get started, and what sparked you to help businesses specifically instead of trying to find one of those online jobs?
Yeah, I don't mind sharing a little bit. It helps me inspire others who might be going through it. I had a ruptured disc to find out I actually have degenerative disc disease, which is an autoimmune that attacks the discs. And I was out. I had 3 surgeries before I finally stabilized in 2014 to 2017. And right before this happened, I just got a new job and took me out. And then for 2 years, I couldn't work. I was basically applying for Social Security disability, living on barely nothing, going to college, living on that money. And my brother and sister-in-law, who I've now been longtime clients, had a magazine at the time. And I'm like, well, I'm a copy editor. I'm a writer. You need somebody. Hire me. They're like, well, tell me more. And after that closed, they're like, you would do really well as a VA. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. A virtual assistant, they said. They're like, everything you've done in your life, every business you've helped run, every administrative position that you've held, you could easily do this. So for 15 years after that, self-taught, learned CRMs, learned schedulers, learned everything in the online world to be where I am now.
Wow. So, I mean, that's wonderful because we all have this vision, right? Especially since COVID, to where we don't necessarily always want to work where we're at. Maybe the work environment is toxic, or whatever the case may be, or maybe our lifestyle just fits better to be able to work from home. And so for you to be able to have the forcing function, which unfortunately is a disability, to make that happen, but to really pivot from a mindset, and just taking a direction where you own that. I think it's amazing that you were able to do that. Not everybody has the goal to be able to say, you know what, I'm in this situation, I can do this still. I don't have to be limited by what people say a disability limits me to. And you just went out there and, pardon my language and for me saying so, but you kicked it in the ass, and now you're doing what you've been doing for 15 years. That's wonderful. So how has that evolved into helping business owners, build successful businesses?
Yeah, it started out just taking my natural talents of organization and leadership and project management and helping people just get organized and be able to launch events, launch new products, basically do all the back end administration, to realizing over the next few years, well, I do a lot more than that. I write SOPs, I can budget, I can handle finances and put together a whole spreadsheet, like running some corporate administrative positions, realizing that this is okay. Some of my clients need me to be their VA all the way up to their operations director. So I do a little bit of everything. And then some I've managed to move into the operations director and run a whole team. What I've been doing for 15 years is one-to-one. And that's only sustainable as far as so many clients, because I'm one person, even if I run other teams within the companies. And so last year, I realized this dream I've had for about 7 years of having a group program finally started to get clearer and clearer. And I feel that things are meant to be. They happen when you're ready for them and when you have enough experience and knowledge to put that into action. And doing a group program will allow me to teach business owners, entrepreneurs, other VAs and OBMs as well, moving into a higher position, moving themselves up into what I'm doing, teaching people how to do what I do. You know, all my tasks, just showing them how to do it, helping them build a team, if they can hire mine 100%, or I can teach them how to do it so they can go off and fly out of the nest and be their own leader.
So you have your own team as well. So it's not just, you're not a solopreneur anymore. Now you have your own little agency. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, from tech to CRM support to website to graphic designers. I've got a huge network that I'm able to pull from. So they have 40 hours a week with multiple clients. Eventually, I would love to get to the point where I can just hire them full time. Like they're just my team. But right now, they're kind of independent contractors being able to do projects as we need them.
Sure. So what is, out of all of the things that you've done as a solopreneur for the last 15 years, what is your favorite type of project that you get yourself involved with, if there is one?
There's actually 3 top ones that are pretty equal. Customer service. I'm a huge white glove, high contact person. I run concierge. I do events and hold people. So that's really a zone of expertise and a huge favorite of mine. Running events. Love them. Love being able to do all types, whether it's virtual, online, or virtual, in-person, or hybrid. And my third one is just actually project management. Those are my 3 favorites.
Really? Okay. So, gosh, can you just maybe run us through what some of your services are? I mean, I want, and you know what, before you say that, just if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to put a banner across the bottom here.
Yeah.
And what is your, I probably should have asked you this before. Oh, I have it. Never mind. Go ahead. And if you wouldn't mind, run us through some of your services. And while you're doing that, I'm going to put your website up on the bottom.
Yeah. And I'm going to pop in the chat the work with me link, because that one actually lists out all my one-to-one services or team services. And then I'm still building my group program. I'm hoping to launch it by October. Basically tech. My starter plans are for entrepreneurs that are either just starting or rebranding, relaunching, refiguring, and we set everything up. We get the foundation ready to go. We get all the processes and systems in place. And then usually that starter package moves into a maintenance package. Then they just hire me ongoing for as long as I have had clients I've worked with for 15 years, 4 years, 5 years, just a couple months to get them started, and they go off on their own. And then I also have event packages and launch packages. Even though I have them, almost everybody's customized. Different people have different needs. So almost all of my packages are customizable. I also do Zoom production for online events, retreats and immersions. I'm pretty much a Jane of all trades. If you need something, I can pretty much provide it.
A Jane of all trades. Well, I would like to hear more about this event coordination. So is it in person or virtual, or do you do both?
I do both. And the wonderful thing that came out of COVID was teaching my clients and other clients how easy it is to do a hybrid event. So most people were doing in-person events, 3-day events, without even considering the virtual option. COVID happened, we moved everything online. So our 3-day events became virtual. And then when we could go back out in the world, they're like, well, I'm going to lose my online audience. I'm like, no, you're not. We just do a hybrid. And so you put up a camera and we get a videographer and we get somebody that can run. And I sit in the back of the room and I have my team that helps me monitor the chats and sits there and makes sure that everybody online is being held just as well as the people in the room. And it's really easy, especially if you have somebody like me that can help coordinate it and hold it.
Wow. So anybody, man, this is inspiring, right? Because not many people that I talk to. So a lot of times my guests on here, they're veterans who struggle going from transition and find that, their first 2, 3, That's actually my story. My first 3 jobs, I struggled because my values did not align with the organizations that I worked for. And, I actually created a leadership development program and instated it in a nationwide company. And then they hired somebody external to take it. And so I started my own business. And if I can start one for a nationwide organization, I can start one for any organization, right? But some people really, really struggle. And so to know that there are warriors out there like us military people that have not necessarily worn the uniform, it inspires me. And I haven't talked to you but one time before this call. And so to meet you today and actually learn this stuff about you, it really, I don't know. I'm excited to talk to you after we're done because we get to learn about each other now.
Yeah,
this is just really cool stuff.
I love networking. I love collaborations. I love supporting other entrepreneurs. One of my personal gifts is being a connector and an activator. Okay. And I love that I've been called that in the past by some clients, and it's like, ooh, that's exactly what I am. I get to connect everybody, and it's like, ooh, you definitely need to talk to so-and-so because they can help you with this. There's room for all of us, and there's no competition here. It's support and collaboration to get our gifts to other people.
Well, and if you get a big enough project, if you find people that are in the similar space as you, and you guys trust each other and your values are similar, you can actually grab that person and say, hey, I need your help with a project. Let's do this together.
Absolutely. Like, I'm not a marketer. I do marketing. I do social media. I keep up on the trends. I keep up on things to do, but that's not my zone of genius. So while I can support it and know enough about it to run project management on it, having a marketer that can come on and help my clients is priceless. Having somebody that knows website SEO, I can do it, but that's not my zone of genius. It's like, again, I know just enough to be able to help with it and keep it going maintenance wise, but the initial setup, you bring in a developer.
Yep.
For examples.
Yes. Oh, and you know what? I said I was going to do it, but I didn't actually announce that I did it. If you look below here, you will see to work with Kimberly, go to, and I'm not going to spell out letter for letter, but that is how you work with Kimberly. And I'm finding already that it's worth the conversation. So I highly recommend that you do it. So tell us a little bit more about your background, right? So you said you were in operations and it sounds like you did some project management stuff. I mean, how did, before Kimberly was an entrepreneur, sorry, before Kimberly was an entrepreneur, what was Kimberly's background?
So the funny thing is, from the time I was 8 years old, I watched my dad own his own business as a pharmacist and worked there from the time I was 8. So I learned a lot of that background information and a lot of that experience really young, how to handle customers, how to talk to customers, how to inventory, how to keep the store clean, how to balance your cash register, how to count back money. And from the time I was 17, I've always owned some sort of business, whether it was, Pampered Chef or something like that. I've always done something on the side. But my mainstream one started in retail. I moved up really quickly from just like cashiers and running. Like my first job was Ames. It's almost like a Walmart is now. They moved me into the Christmas department to put away everybody's gifts and run the layaway because I was so organized, and it was super easy for me to run it at 17. Then they moved me to the front desk because I had a way with talking to people and keeping people calm and handling issues. So I found my customer service quite a bit through the years. Moved up into some more team leader, started to take management training. Then I got into long-term care, and that's where I got my administrative and corporate experience, running the recreation department, bringing people in called emissions, and then running the finance piece of it for the residents. Okay. And that gave me a ton of experience, not only speaking to people and being in front of a group and learning all that back end. And I just kept doing that. Ran some people's bar and grills. So I learned that part of the background experience of running small businesses. And then when my ruptured disc happened and took me out, I was able to take my world experience and move it into the online. Plus, I've been running my own house since I was 18. I moved out, had my own place, had a family young. So you can bring that experience in too. If you can run a house, you can run a business.
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh. Yes. The rat race called having kids, right?
Exactly. In the corporate world also gave me my budgeting experience and spreadsheets and profit and loss statements. Definitely not a bookkeeper, again, not a CPA, but that experience as an operations piece helps support entrepreneurs on that end of it. Because most people, it's a mess. They just enough to get at the taxes. But if you really want to look at how you're growing, my major number one step in my program is setting your goals, visions, and your foundation before you do anything else. You can't scale if you're not ready to scale. That's
true. And you know what? You can be making all the money in the world, but unless you understand how to, well, there's processes to put in place at that point. And I completely agree with you that, maybe for you need to start opening a couple of other accounts and start putting your money into different buckets.
Yep.
And there's a book out there about that, and it's not coming to my head, but I read it, and it just basically running a small business like a corporation would run their business, and using that as an idea to scale and having multiple accounts, because you need to have a budget for everything. Gosh, you know what? It's almost like being put on the spot. I can never remember the book when I need to say something about it, but it does a really good job at explaining that. And if you can
find it, we can pop it in the description later on once it goes live. That makes it easy afterwards.
I probably will. I have it back here in my extremely large bookshelf, so I'll do that. And
all my books are to the left of me.
People that want to learn and grow and have a growth mindset all the time, that's just what they do. They read and they go take classes. So from a leadership perspective, what would you say to any person who is potentially thinking about entrepreneurship or is already in entrepreneurship that could kind of be a motivator for them to continue to move forward? If you could say one thing, what would that be?
Anyone can do it with knowledge and support. Hire a VA even for 5 hours a month. Learn to delegate.
Learn to delegate. Delegating is so important. So when you were in all of these positions in a business, this is something that I help people with in my organization, but this is something that you could absolutely do for a larger organization if you decided to jump into that market. But for those employees, because I also have a group, so this is important for them as well. For those employees that are in a business right now, maybe in a supervisor or management or whatever position, what would your advice be to them? Maybe it's the same, but maybe it's not. I'm just interested to hear what you would have to say from a leadership perspective, when you're first starting to run a team. What's the best piece of advice you could give somebody?
Keep learning. You need to keep growing your leadership skills and boning up on all of how to run a team and how to be a leader, to be an effective leader, and listen to them. Ask the questions, get the feedback, do quarterly evaluations to see how things are going, get feedback from your clients or customers. The only way you're going to grow as a leader is to continue to evolve and learn from your mistakes, because mistakes are just successes waiting to happen.
Oh yeah. Failure. That's a word that I don't necessarily like to use, but then I started using it again after I heard to fail is your first attempt in learning.
Exactly.
And so when you can take that and apply it, not just in a business, right? But that's like a life lesson right there.
Yeah.
It really is. When we were young, right? When we were first starting out, we couldn't even talk yet. And we started standing up, fumbling around, and we would fall on our butt, but we would never stop. Yeah. We would always get back up and try harder and harder and harder. And eventually we walked, then we talked, then we argued with our parents. And then we started going out and developing our own personalities and all of these other things. You can't do anything unless there's a certain amount of failure in the process. So I love that you said that, because I talk about that a lot.
Yeah, and I could have easily given up at 34 when I thought my life was over. It's like everything I knew stopped in life. Everything. A lot more personal stories that's on my website, and I'm writing my book about it. for inspiration to others. I mean, I could have let life just knock me down, but I learned a strength in myself that I didn't realize I had through the years. And that has given me that support in myself to get back up. Okay, great. I fell down. I'm not going to stay here. I might stay there for a little bit, feel my feelings, work through it, learn from it, see what I have to learn from it, get back up and keep going, push through, figure it out. Anybody can do this. If you have the passion for it, just keep learning.
Yes. And from an operational perspective, I will tell you that
you're learning a lot.
Oh my gosh. So there has never, ever, didn't matter if I was planning an operation with 10 people or 3,000 people. It didn't matter, right? If once you go through the planning and you have all the right people involved, you came up with all of the second and third order effect planning and all of the things that you got to do to make sure that when an operation takes off, that you can become successful. I have never gotten to the point of execution and not have something completely crumble.
You don't know what you don't know.
That's absolutely right.
When you learn and you have a client or a customer that it just fell through the cracks, you didn't even think of this scenario, you apologize, you fix it, and then you put a process in place for it. SOPs are my Bibles for business. Yeah. It's like you don't know how to fix something until it comes up. And so you learn from it. Nothing is, like we talked about, nothing is a failure. Everything's a learning experience. And the more mistakes that happen is where you learn holes in your systems and processes. There's always going to be holes. You fix them.
Yep. Well, and I always encourage people, go out there and screw it up.
Yeah.
You're not going to know what works until you screw it up at least once.
Yep. Sometimes way more than that.
Oh yeah. Well, I can tell you in this business process, I took a year once I left my last job to actually start the business that I'm in and actually execute the things that I did because I didn't know where I wanted to fit into the market. But I will tell you that even after I started, my first products that I had out there, nobody wanted them. And I was like, this is crazy.
How can they not want this?
How can they not want, for me to come in there and do A, B, and C? And, and I changed things just a little bit. And then all of a sudden people were like, oh, tell me more about that. Oh, well, guess what? I had to fall on my face about 5 times before I got that response.
And I'll tell you everything that I've learned, because I am, other than the experience I had in the mainstream work area, everything in the online space I've learned. I've taught myself. I've gone in and made mistakes, and I own them, and I learn from them, and I've only become better to where I can now teach people how to do this. I've gotten to a point where I'm now an expert in what I do, where before I was kind of fumbling along, learning, making the mistakes, and you just keep it on. Like Dory said, keep on swimming, and you learn and you grow, and you can become an expert in your field.
Anybody can be an expert in anything. Now, if you're interested in it, that's step one.
Yep.
And if you're not interested in what you're doing, becoming an expert in it is almost worthless.
It is. I love what I do. Oh my gosh, do I love what I do.
Yes. Well, and the time freedom and all of those things. I mean, to take something that you're super passionate about and then to make an entire organization out of it and then make that your job.
Yeah.
I will say that saying that if you do something that you love, you never work a day in your life. Well, guess what? I work my holy living butt off. But yeah.
And I teach a work-life balance too. I take 6 weeks vacations a year. It's written into my contract. I have the hours that I work written into my contract. I have that there's a notice if I need to work evenings or weekends that are not already scheduled. It's like you learn your boundaries and you learn your work-life balance so that you can continue to love what you do, because burnout is the number one reason so many entrepreneurs just give up.
True.
Or hate what they do. It's like, I loved this and now I hate it. Well, you don't have a work-life balance. You don't have systems in place to take care of a lot of the details that you just don't need to be doing every day.
But you know what? I will tell you one thing, and I agree because I do similar things, right? So I make sure that any new client that I work with, it's actually starting off in the proposal, not even the contract, to say that if you try to contact me after 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yeah.
you'll get a response the next morning. It's
Exactly.
just part of it. But this is what I will tell people, that if you are interested in entrepreneurship, if you want to start your own business, first of all, make sure that you have the financial resources to make that happen, because you don't want to put you or your family at a deficit. Make sure you have support from your family around what you're trying to do, so it's not difficult. Find some other friends that are entrepreneurs, but also do not give up on the idea, because if you are in a job, which by the way, you can't control oftentimes your hours because you're locked in when you have that job. If you're looking for a way to create your own time freedom, having your own business can do that for you.
Yeah, and I would say online business is more than brick and mortar. Brick and mortars can be tough. Done it. Ran a restaurant. You're there all the time until you get to a spot that you can hire people. But as an online coach or business owner, there's so much more freedom to that.
Yes.
So much more freedom.
Yes, I completely agree. And I'm not super uber successful at it yet, but I am super uber successful at it, because every company that I've helped and every individual that I've worked with, and I don't know why, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but they love me, and that's just justification that I'm in the right space. So I mean, don't give up on an idea just because it's going to be hard, or because people around you are telling you that you're going to lose your financial security, or whatever the case may be. You're going to have so many haters in your life trying to discourage you, which if you're a religious person, I'm just going to go ahead and say that when you get that feeling to go in the right direction, you're going to have that negativity knocking you in the back of the head and trying to keep you from going forward. And don't give into that.
Uncomfortable. Change and doing something different is so uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, I didn't even have a website for the first 7 years, because every single client I got was word of mouth.
Oh.
Somebody referred me to somebody. And then when I built my website, it was kind of half-assed just to have it there, that if people went to the schedule.
Well, you didn't need it.
Didn't need it. And now I'm like, now that I'm doing the group program, I'm like, I really need to overhaul this. The more podcasts I do, the more speaking I get involved with, the more collaboration. It's always necessary, but do it in the time frame that works for you. So I took 2 weeks, built my website, and now I have someplace to send people when I'm doing things like this. So anything's possible. You do what you need to do in the time frame that it needs to happen.
I love what you do, and the fact that you figured it out over the course of 15 years, and now and it's awesome that you're still pivoting in your business after 15 years. It's just, but you're right. The revenue comes, and you can help more people when you help them in groups rather than helping them one-on-one.
And I want to help more people, and one-on-one can only go so far. It's been great. It supported me for 15 years and my children, but I want to help more. Yes. I want to reach more people, and group programs do that.
Yes.
And it gives people the confidence to learn it themselves too. And then to learn how to hand things off and let go of control and start to grow. You can't scale if you kind of keep everything to you.
Correct.
You're only going to go so far.
Yep. I completely agree. I'm actually at that point ish right now. So I'll talk to you about that offline, but
yeah, absolutely.
We're almost at the 30-minute mark. We're just a little under a minute and a half. This is where I give you the opportunity, if you'd like to share a message or a promotion or anything that you want to share with the audience about your business and what you're doing. That just as a closing comment, I'd like to give you the floor to do that if you're willing.
Yeah, I have a Facebook group that actually is where I'm kind of funneling everybody into. That's how you and I are meeting. So we can pop that in, and in it you can get my freebie, which is just the 5 pieces of tech that you need when you're starting out. So pop that in the chat for the group, and any entrepreneur, business owner, VA, OBM can join. And then they'll get a lot more trainings and freebies and more information about me and the business and the program as we go on.
Okay. And I have this, and just let me edit that real quick.
Gotta love running banners. I love technology.
Oh, I love StreamYard. It's wonderful.
It's a great tool.
It is. And that's all these things are that you're talking about are a bunch of tools. But if you look down right now, it looks to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kimberly, but it's called Systemize for Success. Your Facebook group is, correct?
That's correct.
So go there, go to groups, search Systemize for Success. You'll find Kimberly and her awesome program, and you can go in there and be a part of a group of professionals that are going to grow their businesses, and you can be part of that. Yeah. So thank you, Kimberly, for being a guest here. Thank you, everybody, for watching who've been watching now. Not very many. That's typical, but also who will watch in the future. If you like this content, please like it, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, specifically, reshare this with your audience. But the most important thing is that if you want to start a conversation around the subjects that we discuss in these podcasts and live streams, then you have to put a comment below and keep the conversation going. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, JJ.
Thanks, Kimberly.